He started working for the Bellevue Police Department in 1994, and during his time here, he was involved in 2 deadly officer-involved shootings in less than a year. He was cleared in both cases, but tonight in Virginia, he is facing a second-degree murder charge.
Now hearing from family members of a Maryland National Guardsman that was shot to death in a confrontation with his next-door neighbor. That as we learn more about a history of conflict between Javon, Prather.
There's nothing quite like having good neighbors until the familiar streets you once walked become a nightmare of terror. In this harrowing episode of Monsters Among Us, we unravel the devastating case of a young man with a bright future brutally ripped away. Brace yourself for the chilling details of this shocking story where good neighbors turned into something far more sinister. This story takes place in Springfield, Virginia, a family-friendly city known for being a rather quiet and comfortable area to raise a family. It's even garnered a reputation as the safest small community in the United States, making the shocking events that transpired all the more jarring. Because Springfield is such a wonderful city, Janelle Prather chose it as the perfect place to start fresh with her daughter, Amaya Brown, and their 2 dogs. She was thrilled to become a homeowner, finally leaving behind the unsafe and uncomfortable neighborhood she once called home. Springfield offered the safety and comfort she had longed for, making it the ideal place to build a better life for her family. When Janelle and Amaya moved into their charming new neighborhood, they were warmly greeted by neighbors bearing small gifts and treats to welcome them. However, one neighbor wasn't as thrilled by their arrival. Michael Hetla, who lived next door, barely acknowledged them, though his wife, Sarah, did extend a friendly welcome. Sarah explained Michael's silence by saying he was simply more reserved. Little did they know this initial coldness was just the beginning of a far more unsettling dynamic. Sarah was enthusiastic about having new neighbors, but Michael didn't share her excitement. While Janelle and her daughter Amaya often saw Michael in passing, he never took the time to converse with them. Amaya noticed that Michael chatted easily with other neighbors, but never with her or her mother. Though it bothered her, she tried to brush it off, focusing on the beauty and safety of their new city. Michael, known for being a stickler for rules, soon began to notice things that irritated him. Despite Amaya's polite waves and greetings, Michael remained distant and silent. Initially, he held back his complaints, but it wasn't long before his simmering discontent began to surface. The tranquility Janelle and Amaya sought in their new home was about to be disrupted by a neighbor who couldn't keep his grievances to himself. One day, Janelle was sitting in her car in the driveway, enjoying her favorite radio station, when Michael stormed out of his house, screaming at her to turn down the music. He hurled insults, calling her and her music ghetto, making Janelle feel deeply uncomfortable. Offended but determined not to let it ruin her excitement over her new home, Janelle chose to brush off the confrontation. Michael, however, couldn't let it go. His irritation festered, growing into a consuming obsession with Janelle and her family. When his wife, Sarah, spotted a rat in their backyard, Michael was quick to blame Janelle, convinced it was coming from her trash bags. This incident fueled his anger further. He began meticulously documenting every perceived infraction, excess trash, loud noise, and any minor annoyance. What started as a cold neighborly relationship was now turning into a relentless campaign against Janelle and her family, darkening the once promising new chapter of their lives. Michael began writing complaints to the HOA, stating that he was dealing with squirrels and mice due to Janelle and her trash, which he believed she left everywhere. Because of his complaints, Janelle received a notice in the mail from the HOA regarding the condition of her yard. While the notice didn't state who filed a complaint against her, Janelle was certain the complaint came from Michael because of the trouble he attempted to stir up with her when she was listening to music in her car. A few weeks after the initial confrontation, Amaya was home alone and let their 2 dogs out into the backyard. She allowed them to run around for a bit before bringing them back inside. Unbeknownst to her, Michael claimed the dogs had come dangerously close to him and his small dog. Later that day, the police knocked on their front door, responding to complaints from neighbors about the dogs barking excessively and defecating in the yard. Sadly, this became an all-too-frequent occurrence. Janelle and Amaya found themselves dealing with daily police visits, each time facing accusations fueled by Michael's grievances. The once quiet neighborhood now buzzed with tension as Michael's relentless complaints turned their dream home into what felt like a constant battleground. The frequent police visits infuriated Janelle, making her increasingly uneasy about living next to Michael. To make matters worse, she started receiving citations from the HOA, all stemming from Michael's relentless complaints. It became painfully clear to Janelle and Amaya that Michael was weaponizing both the HOA and the police against them, fabricating accusations at every turn. Even the police, stationed outside their home to investigate the complaints, found no evidence of loud noises or disturbances. Despite this, the constant scrutiny and harassment wore down Janelle and Amaya. Michael's complaints started to ripple through the neighborhood, swaying other residents to his side simply because he had lived there longer. One day, while Amaya was walking her dog, it stopped for a bowel movement. Before she could grab a bag, a neighbor approached her and snapped, "Are you going to pick up your dog's mess? We all know the dog poop around here comes from your pets." The neighbor went on to say that she'd heard nothing but bad things about Amaya and her mother, clearly echoing Michael's influence. The hostility was palpable, and it was evident that Michael's campaign against them had tainted the entire community's view. Amaya felt the weight of the neighborhood's scrutiny, and the unfair judgment passed down from a man who seemed determined to make their lives miserable. This moment marked a new low, as Janelle and Amaya realized they were not just battling Michael, but the growing resentment of an entire neighborhood. Growing tired of the relentless abuse, Janelle marched over to Michael's house and knocked on his door. When he opened it, she confronted him directly, demanding to know why he was spreading rumors about her family. She told him in no uncertain terms to mind his own business and stop calling both the HOA and the police on her. Janelle was done with his intimidation tactics and refused to let his complaints disrupt her life any longer. Determined to reclaim her peace, Janelle continued living her life as she always had. She frequently invited friends over for food, drinks, and games, embracing the joy and companionship that came with these gatherings. Naturally, this infuriated Michael, who continued to lodge complaints about the small gatherings, escalating the tension between them. The situation had reached a boiling point, with Janelle standing her ground against a neighbor hell-bent on making her life a living nightmare. Janelle hoped that things would improve and Michael would leave her alone, but things would only worsen when she was served legal papers. Because of the many complaints filed against her, the HOA filed a lawsuit against Janelle, citing loud music, yelling, and dog feces in the backyard. Janelle claimed that many of these complaints held no merit. At this point, Janelle had enough and decided to confront Michael again, letting him know karma would come for him. Determined not to let Michael ruin her life, Janelle decided to hire an attorney to fight back against the lawsuit. Refusing to be intimidated, she resumed doing what she loved most, hosting friends for dinners, music, and good company. This defiance only fueled Michael's anger. He had hoped his relentless complaints would either silence Janelle or force her to move out, but she wasn't backing down. Each gathering at Janelle's home was a statement of resilience, a declaration that she wouldn't be bullied out of her happiness. The tension in the neighborhood was palpable, and Michael's frustration grew with every laugh and song that echoed from Janelle's home. The battle lines were drawn, and neither side was willing to yield, setting the stage for an inevitable and dramatic showdown. One night, as Michael was relaxing on the couch with his family, a loud banging noise and the shattering of glass shattered the calm. Michael leaped up, rushing to the door, only to find a shocking scene. Janelle was standing by his car, an empty wine bottle in hand, smashing the car with furious swings. Michael wasted no time and called the police. The result was a misdemeanor charge for Janelle, a stark reminder of her outburst. Although she knew it wasn't the right response, her actions were fueled by mounting anger and frustration. Embarrassed and remorseful, Janelle was determined to move past this reckless episode and find a way to restore her peace and dignity, which is exactly what she did. As the weeks went by, Janelle's life took an exciting turn when she began a romance with Javon Prather, a 21-year-old military man with a reputation as a devoted family guy. Their relationship blossomed, and Javon started spending more time at Janelle's house. One day, while Javon was outside, he spotted Michael and decided to extend an olive branch. With a friendly smile, he approached Michael, hoping to break the ice, and even asked if he could use his hose to wash his car. But Michael's response was swift and cold. He flatly refused. The encounter only intensified the already palpable tension. Later that day, Javon recounted the tense encounter with Michael to Janelle. Alarmed, Janelle warned him that Michael was out to get her and urged him to steer clear of the troublemaker. Javon, however, reassured her, insisting he wouldn't let Michael's hostility get the best of them. Determined not to let Michael's negativity overshadow their lives, Javon focused on nurturing his relationship with Janelle. Their love flourished, leading them to tie the knot in a beautiful ceremony. But their newlywed bliss was short-lived. The simmering tension with Michael continued to brew, threatening to disrupt their happiness. Like many couples, Janelle and Javon had their share of small arguments. Their occasional shouting matches didn't go unnoticed, especially by Michael. Whenever he heard the commotion, he seized the opportunity to call the cops and report the noise. Michael's relentless complaints soon led to a knock at Janelle's door. She was handed an order of protection against Michael. The order was strict, prohibiting her from speaking to Michael, his wife Sarah, or their son, and mandated she stay at least 10 to 15 feet away from him at all times. But Michael wasn't done. He began deliberately provoking Janelle, trying to bait her into violating the order by getting too close or sparking a conversation. Frustrated and anxious, Janelle reported Michael's antics to the police, but the protection order offered little more than a temporary shield. The escalating cat-and-mouse game between Janelle and Michael only intensified, adding another layer of tension to their already strained lives. One day, Michael noticed ranch dressing poured all over his vehicle and assumed it was Janelle and Javon. He reported it to the police, but no charges were filed because there was no evidence to pinpoint who had put the ranch dressing on the car. For that reason, Michael decided to install surveillance cameras outside his home. And while Janelle couldn't speak to Michael, Javon could, so he wanted to make it clear that he thought Michael was a pathetic human being. The two would constantly begin bickering back and forth with one another. On March 3rd, 2020, 24-year-old Javon was buzzing with excitement about voting in his first presidential primary election. He even proudly snapped a photo of himself with an "I voted" sticker. As he and Janelle drove home, music blaring and spirits high, Michael watched from his front yard, seizing another opportunity to stir trouble. As they pulled up, Michael couldn't resist taunting them, asking if they'd had a nice drive and sarcastically suggesting they were looking for a new place to live. Janelle, fed up with his constant harassment, snapped back with a terse "shut up" and hurried inside to escape the confrontation. But Michael wasn't done. Fueled by his vendetta and the restraining order, he quickly called the police, reporting Janelle for breaching the order by speaking to him. Michael taunted Javon, telling him that the police were on their way. Confused and enraged by the baseless threat, Javon stormed out of the car and with a scowl called Michael the world's biggest loser before heading back inside. A few minutes later, Michael heard a persistent, aggressive ringing of his doorbell. Peeking outside, he saw Javon standing there, his face twisted in anger. Michael, claiming he was terrified of Javon's rage and unsure of what he might do next, felt his fear escalate. He fired his weapon, tragically killing Javon within minutes. The scene took a dramatic turn as Janelle, having heard the gunshots, rushed outside to find Javon lying on the ground. Her heart sank as she looked up to see Michael pointing the gun at her. In a chilling moment, Michael snarled, "You want it too?" The horrifying reality of the situation unfolded, leaving Janelle grappling with a devastating loss and an immediate threat to her own safety. As Michael tried to cast himself as the victim, the surveillance footage from his Ring camera revealed a shocking truth that turned the narrative on its head. The footage, clear and unyielding, showed Javon's demeanor to be the opposite of Michael's claims. Far from banging and ringing the bell aggressively, Javon approached Michael's house calmly, standing peacefully outside. The moment the door opened, Michael's intentions became chillingly clear. Without any provocation, he fired immediately, proving he had been primed for confrontation from the start. The footage exposed the cold reality of Michael's actions, shattering his facade of self-defense and revealing his premeditated intent. The video contradicted Michael's story and set the stage for a dramatic legal battle.
His home and walks to his neighbors. Witnesses say Prather banged on the neighbor's door so hard it shook the walls. This video submitted in court doesn't show that, and News 4 will freeze the video and only play the audio of the moment the door opens and bullets fly through the doorway. 6 shots, and then a 7th. We pick up the video with Javon lying in the driveway and his wife Janelle rushing over and confronting her husband's accused killer.
You wanted to?
Fairfax County Police say the shooter is 52-year-old Michael Headley, a NASA employee and former police officer in Washington State, where he shot 2 people while on duty in separate incidents in 2000 and 2001.
You wanted to? You better. You get the out of here. Get out! No, get out! Get away! 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 I am.
During Michael Headley's trial, a shocking revelation came to light when his own son took the stand. In a dramatic and unexpected twist, he testified against his father, exposing a dark truth about Michael's character. The son revealed that Michael had a history of racist behavior and regularly used derogatory terms to describe both Janelle and Javon. This damning testimony painted Michael in an even darker light and played a crucial role in the trial. On January 8, 2022, justice was served as Michael Headley was sentenced to life in prison. The verdict was a pivotal moment, but for Janelle, the pain was far from over. Struggling with the constant reminders of the traumatic events, she made the difficult decision to leave the neighborhood behind. Her departure marked the end of a painful chapter and the beginning of a new, uncertain journey away from the shadows of her past.